In this video, we're going to create a really great cybersecurity project. We're going to create a very basic home SOC in the cloud using a free Azure subscription. So literally anyone watching this can follow along. This is probably the best home SOC lab video on YouTube, like period. So if you happen to know a better one or you find a better one, definitely link it in the comments and I will take a look at it. This is a really great project to show on your resume, and I know a lot of my followers and viewers have actually used this and ended up landing a job in either general IT or actually got into cybersecurity using this lab, among other things, of course. So basically, we're going to create a honeypot in Azure. It's just basically going to be a virtual machine. We're going to open it up to the public internet intentionally, and it's going to get attacked in a matter of minutes or hours. We're going to configure log forwarding to forward the logs and failed attack attempts into a central repository. We're going to connect that repository to a SIM. We're going to be able to query the SIM, and then we're going to create an attack map that shows where all of the attackers are actually coming from. And this is like real, actual live attacks from the internet. So it's a really interesting lab, and it's really eye-opening just to show exactly how soon your stuff starts getting attacked once it's exposed to the internet. And by the way, this lab that we're about to do is a massively watered down, nerfed one of what's inside the CyberRange. CyberRange is my private community. Basically, it's a real world work environment where once you join the CyberRange, you will get accounts to log into my company's Azure as well as my company's Tenable, which is a vulnerability management platform. And there is like a whole bunch of labs and courses and stuff inside the CyberRange. And this is just kind of like a miniature version of one of the security operations courses. So if you like this lab, definitely check out the CyberRange. There's a lot more in there, and it's quite affordable. Not to mention there's optional cybersecurity internships in there as well, which actually do work. I do probably a bit more than one employment verification per week for interns who have gone through my program. And I'm kind of maintaining this site where whenever one of the interns gets hired, I kind of put their name on here so you can observe their LinkedIn and see that they were in the internship and then kind of see what job they got afterwards. So definitely check that out. Cool, so getting right into things, I'll put a link for this in the description, but this is the site where you need to sign up for your free Azure credit, which we're going to use to do the lab in. And you'll find that you need to use a credit card for this. Unfortunately, it's just like how Azure is. You just have to tie your subscription to a credit card for whatever reason. But if you find that you're not able to create a free Azure subscription for whatever reason, maybe you created one already or there's just some other problem, you could opt for a pay-as-you-go one where you just pay for what you use in Azure. And you can kind of think about it like the electricity bill. Like the longer your virtual machine is on or exists, the more money that you have to spend. And then another option would just be to join the CyberRange. Because the CyberRange, you'll pay like a monthly subscription, but we handle all the subscription fee on the back end. And if you join the CyberRange, you get access to my company's Azure subscription, as well as Tenable and a few other things, not to mention a bunch of courses and stuff. So if you find that you're not able to create a free subscription, it's probably from a value standpoint, it's probably better to just join the CyberRange and then use the walkthroughs and stuff in there, because you don't need to worry about your Azure spend on the back end. You just pay for the CyberRange subscription. So it's up to you, but hopefully you'll be able to create a free subscription. So I'm going to attempt to create a free subscription. I imagine it's not going to let me because I've done it too many times, but I'll use a different credit card just so you can see how it looks. So right now, we don't have any infrastructure. We have nothing. So we're just going to create our subscription and then start building out our stuff. So go ahead and click try Azure for free. And then just say create account here. And then you'll put your email address. Don't use your work or your school email address. It will conflict if your work or school already has an Azure account. So use your Gmail or some personal one. And then just say next. I'm really surprised that it let me create a free account because I have so many accounts with that same credit card. So that's amazing. So at this point, we got our account created, and then we can just log in at portal.azure.com, or you can click this button here. I'll just click this. And then you should be dumped on a screen that kind of looks like this. And then you don't have to click through all this stuff. You can if you want to I guess learn about it. If you want to go through their tutorials or something, but I'm not going to. And you can always, this is a good URL to remember. Just remember like portal.azure.com. This is where we're going to do all of like, oh my God, just close this. This is where we're going to do all of our activities, like create our virtual machine and like set up logging and do all that stuff. And I'll kind of periodically show you this picture of the diagram as we go through the lab, so you can kind of get a sense for exactly what we're doing. So part 1 is done, our Azure subscription is created, and the next section we're going to work on like setting up our actual honeypot, where like we're going to create our virtual machine and then kind of get logged into it. So cool, great job so far. Next we're going to create our virtual machine. So currently our architecture looks like this. It's just a completely blank Azure subscription, or a tenant with a subscription inside. This next part, we're going to create a resource group, which you can kind of think about it like a folder for cloud resources, like our virtual machine and virtual network and stuff. And then we're going to create a virtual network inside of there, and then create a virtual machine and attach it to the virtual network. And then we're going to log into the virtual machine and turn off the firewall, just so we can make it really enticing to attackers on the internet. We're also going to create what's called a network security group. You can kind of think about that as a cloud firewall. There's actually something called an Azure firewall that has more features and stuff, but basically we're going to create a cloud firewall, and then we're going to open that up completely, as well as the firewall inside of Windows. So in the end, our architecture, not in the end, but like after this section, our architecture will just kind of look like this, where we have virtual network with basically a virtual machine inside it that's wide open to the public internet, and then getting attacked. So getting started, we'll just go to, let's create our resource group first. So all you have to do is search resource group at the top, resource group. And technically we can do all this at the same time, like when we create our virtual machine, but I just want to give you like an idea for what's happening. So we can say create, and then we pick our subscription, which we only have one. And then the resource group name, we'll just call it like RG-SOC Lab, something like this. And then for region, let's just put it in like East US 2. Let's put it in East US 2. This just basically means when we create stuff in the cloud, it actually is going to exist somewhere on the East Coast in one of Microsoft's data centers. So let's just go ahead and create the resource group. Again, this is just like a folder in the cloud for all of the stuff that we're going to create. And it usually creates like pretty fast. See, it's already done. So if we search like resource group, we can see our resource group here, and there's nothing inside of it. So next, let's create our virtual network. So we're going to create a virtual network. You can kind of, this is like not the best way to imagine it, but you can imagine a virtual network as kind of like, you know, your home router that you might have at home that your computers plug into and they connect with Wi-Fi. You can kind of imagine it like one of those, but in the cloud, but our virtual machine is going to plug into it. That's not like the best way to think about it, but that's like, you know, a really good way to make it more tangible. So for virtual networks, we're going to create one. And then let's make sure to put it in the same region as our resource group, and then we'll put it in our resource group as well. So you can see resource groups, we can select it. And then the name of our virtual network, we can just name it VNet SOC Lab, something like this. We'll put it in East US 2, and we say next. And then we can leave this alone and say next. And then we can leave all of this kind of by default. It's going to create this address space for us. You don't have to worry about it too much, but our virtual machine is going to have an IP address that falls in this range. And then we can just say review and create. And this might take a second to create, but at this point we're going to have like basically our empty Azure tenant with a subscription inside, and then we created a resource group, and then now we're creating a virtual net as well as a subnet inside of that virtual network. So I imagine it's validating the settings of our virtual network, and we're going to have to click create. So click create. Don't forget to click create. A lot of people forget that, including myself, and then it's just going to be like sitting on the screen without anything being created. So we'll just wait for this to finish. Cool. Now our virtual network is finished. So if we go to resource groups again, we can see this automatically got created. We can see our original resource group we created, and then inside of there, we see our virtual network that we made. And next, we're going to create a virtual machine. So search virtual machine. This is going to be like our honeypot that's exposed to the internet that people are excited to attack. So just click create and then say Azure virtual machine. For our resource group, pick the resource group we made, RG SOC Lab, and then the virtual machine name, we can call it like I wouldn't name it like honeypot because like the attackers can potentially resolve the name and they see it's a honeypot. It doesn't really matter, but let's just name it like a, something innocuous like CorpNet East 1 or something like this. It looks like a official sounding name. And then for image, go ahead and pick Windows 10 for now. And then for the size, this is where like you have to be careful. So for example, currently the cyber range, like the whole cyber range is $97 a month. And all this like is kind of managed for you on the back end. But if you, for example, if you create this computer, this virtual machine, it's $70 a month and you accidentally like leave it on for 24 hours, you're going to end up paying like probably more than this, depending on the type of disk that you use. But for this lab, if you're on the cyber range, you can only choose like this cheap one. And then I have stuff on the back end that like turns the computer off at 3 a.m. to like reduce cost. But if you're doing this like on your own, you can pick this standard DS2 version 3 because it's like a bit faster. Just remember to like turn it off when you're done. Again, this is why like this cyber range is like kind of useful because all this is managed for you on the back end and you get more than just like a virtual machine. You get like Tenable and a bunch of stuff. So yeah, just go through the lab and just be cautious to like turn your stuff off or delete it when you're done with it. So pick the size, and then for the username, just pick something, but don't forget what it is. You can reset it if you forget, but just don't forget. It's just better if you don't. So I'm going to use CyberLab, or I'm going to use lab user and then CyberLab123 is the password with an exclamation point. But just remember what this is. I'll show you how to reset it if you forget. But don't forget to check this box down here and then say next for disk. And then again, like depending on the disk that you choose, it's going to be a bit more expensive. If you're in the cyber range, you can only pick standard HDD, but you can leave it as this fast, expensive disk, but just remember to turn your VM off when you're done. And I'll remind you to do it. So just pick the disk and say next for networking. And then this is where we would select our virtual network we created. Oh yeah, by the way, under basics, go ahead and make sure it's like East US 2. Because that's where all of our virtual network and all of our other stuff is. And then for our virtual network, pick the VNet we made earlier. And then the subnet, it will be here, this default one. Yours might look slightly different, but. And go ahead and check this delete NIC and stuff when we're done. And then for management, say next. We don't need anything here. Say next. For boot diagnostics, we can disable this and then just say next and then review and create. And then we'll just wait for this to validate, and then don't forget to click create when it's done validating. So we'll just wait a bit. Cool, so validation passed, so we can just say create, and this is going to create our virtual machine in the cloud. So we'll just let this finish. Cool, so our virtual machine has been deployed, and I just want to show you something. So up here, go to search and just search for a resource group again, and I'll show you something. And if we go to resource group SOC Lab, now we see our actual virtual machine here. We see a public IP address that was created along with the virtual machine. We see a network security group, which is basically the firewall, like the cloud firewall for this virtual machine. We see a network interface, which is kind of like you can imagine like an Ethernet port, like a virtual one for the virtual machine. And then we see like a disk that actually got created as well. So it's like basically a whole bunch of different computer components that go with our virtual machine that are in the cloud. So From here, we're going to actually edit the network security group and like open it up to the internet. We're going to like open this firewall up so like anyone can like access it with any kind of traffic, which is normally bad, but for the sake of the lab, we want it to get discovered as soon as possible. And this requires like quite a bit of explaining, and I can and will make a whole video on this at some point. But basically the firewall, like the virtual machine is here, and there's like a firewall in between it and the public internet. And then there's like inbound rules and outbound rules. And these inbound rules control basically what traffic can enter the virtual network from the public internet. So this rule right here, basically it's saying like remote desktop protocol, like enable to like log into it and stuff. Remote desktop protocol is enabled over the public internet from any source. Like anyone from anywhere around the world can attempt to log into this computer with remote desktop. But if you send any other type of traffic to it, there's no rules that will allow it, so it will get blocked. So currently there's only remote desktop protocol allowed inbound. So what we're going to do, we're just going to delete this default rule, and then we're going to create another inbound rule that allows everything inbound, not just only remote desktop. So I deleted that rule, and then we can go to, I think, settings, and then inbound security rules. And then we're going to add an inbound security rule. So source, any port, any destination. We can leave this service as custom, and then destination port, we want any, so we'll put a star here. Any protocol, any. And then priority just means like the lower the priority, the sooner the rule gets evaluated. But there's only 3 rules here with a huge priority, so we can leave this at like 100, right? And then we can name this. I like to name the rule like danger with like a danger prefix, because it's like quite dangerous, and you can see all these warnings because we're allowing any traffic inbound. But this is intentional just so we can make the virtual machine enticing. Next, the last thing we're going to do in this section is we're going to actually get logged into our virtual machine, and we're going to disable the internal Windows firewall for the virtual machine. So to do that, go to virtual machines, and then if you're running Mac, you have to download an application from the App Store to be able to remote desktop into it. But if you're running Windows, you can click the Start menu, and if you click Start, you can type like remote desktop, something like this, and then open the program, and then something like this will come out. And then this is where you put like your virtual machine's IP address, but I'll show you. So basically, back in the Azure portal, if we search for virtual machines, click our virtual machine. Once we click the virtual machine, we can see like our public IP address here. So just copy this. And then if you're running Mac, you have to go to the App Store and then download, I forget exactly what it's called, but if you type remote desktop, it's called Windows app. So go ahead and download this and then open it if you're running Mac. And then you can like add this. Yours might not look like this exactly, but you have to add a new connection. And then for the PC name, you would put like the public IP address of your virtual machine here. And for the friendly name, you can put like whatever you want here, but I'll just put like the public IP address and say add. And then it should add it here, and then you can like connect to it. So lab user, I remembered, CyberLab123. So just get connected to your virtual machine, put the username and password. And if you're running Windows, I'll kind of show you what this looks like in just a second. And I do want to say, like, if you forgot your username and password for your virtual machine, you can either just delete it and make a new one. So if, like, you can just delete, right, and make a new one, or you can click help, and then there should be like a reset password thing here. And then you'd put like your new username and then password twice, and then say update, and it will take like a minute or something, and it will reset the password on the back end. And then, you know, you can log into it with that. But just say no to this stuff. And I'm in my virtual machine. So if you're running Windows, by the way, and you need to connect to the virtual machine, it will look like this. I'll just like show you from within the VM. If you type, you can type MSTSC, it stands for Microsoft Terminal Services Client, or you can just type, you know, remote desktop, and then open this. And then you paste your IP address here, and then you say connect. This is like my own IP address, so I don't know what's going to happen, but basically, this is where you put like whatever your username and password that you created, that you used when you created the virtual machine, like this, and then it will connect. I don't know what this is going to do. It must like, if you see something like this, you can say more choices, and then you can say use a different account, and then you can say lab user, and then whatever your username and password is. This probably is not going to work because it's like I'm logging into my own self or something, but that's what it looks like for Windows. But if you're using Mac, you can like 3-finger swipe back and forth. If you're using Windows and you log in, if you put your mouse at the top of the screen, you can like always like minimize the screen and like maximize it and stuff like this. So we're inside of our virtual machine. So from here, all we have to do is turn off the Windows firewall, and then we're going to kind of move on to the next step. So if we click start, and then type wf.msc for Windows firewall, I think it's Microsoft console, I'm not sure, and we'll open this. And then you see this like Windows Defender firewall properties. It's tiny, but if you click it, there's like tabs, so just turn it off for each tab. You can just like press O and it will turn off. Turn this off, turn this one off, and say apply and OK. And then we'll use either minimize this, that was loud, or use the 3-finger swipe to go back to here. And then now we're going to actually ping our virtual machine from our local computer to make sure that we can like reach it over the public internet. Because if we can, it means the attackers can. So back in Azure, if you search for virtual machines, we'll find our VM and we'll get the public IP address. And if you're running Windows, open up PowerShell or the command line. Like you can click start and then just type PowerShell or command line. But if you're running Mac, just click this hourglass and open terminal. And we'll just simply type ping space and then type the public IP address or paste it. And then you should see something that looks like this, where you're getting bytes returned from. If you're running Windows and it says that like timed out or something, it means either your network security group is not opened up enough yet, or you didn't turn the firewall off. So you just gotta like go back and make sure to do those things. But mine is open, so I'm gonna stop it with Control-C and just like close this. And then we can move on to the next part. But before we do that, I just want to give a recap. This is basically what our architecture looks like right now. We have our tenant, we have our subscription that we created, we have our resource group. Inside of there, we have a virtual network and then a subnet. We have a virtual machine attached to our subnet. It's basically like quote unquote plugged into the network. Our virtual machine has a public IP address as well as a network security group attached to it, like a cloud firewall, but that thing is wide open and it's allowing all types of traffic to come in from the internet. So basically we just have this virtual machine sitting out on the public internet with all the firewalls wide open, where it can be attacked by pretty much any random person on the internet. And it's only a matter of like minutes or hours before like those bad bots and stuff start finding it and trying to log into it. All right, so next we're going to explore logging a little bit, and then after that we're going to create a log repository and then forward logs from the virtual machine into there. So before we do that, let's log out of our virtual machine, or at least close the connection for now, and then try to log into it one more time, and then intentionally fail a login. Try to log in as like somebody named employee. This account doesn't exist, but I just want to like show you something. So employee, we'll just fail the login maybe 3 times. It's a fake account name, or maybe I'll do it 4 times just for good measure. And then go ahead and log in as your normal account. So lab user for mine, and then whatever your normal password is, and just go ahead and get logged in. And close this. And then so we're going to look at our local logs on the virtual machine just to give you like an idea. So if you click start and then type event viewer and then open this, basically this is where like if anything happens on the computer, not anything. So this is where when stuff happens on the computer, it will get logged right? Depending on if you have it configured to do so. But by default, a lot of logging happens already. So inside of Event Viewer, expand Windows Logs, and then click on Security. And then inside of here these are basically all the different quote unquote security events that happen on the computer. And you can see like a lot of audit failure, audit success. You see like a whole bunch of stuff in here. And then you'll notice like event ID as well. And each event ID corresponds to like a certain type of event that happened. So if we click in here and then search for like 4625, for example, this will find all of the events that have event ID 4625. And event ID 4625 means like a failure to log on, or like an account failed to log on to your Windows machine. So for example, let me go back to the top with this. I'll just click somewhere at the top and then Control F, and then 4625, and I'll just find the first one. So it found this here. So if I double click this and expand this, you can kind of see what happened. You can see account for which failed to log in, like account name employee, and it shows like this is my IP address at the hotel I'm at right now in Thailand, and then it will just like show some other stuff. So basically the idea is like people are gonna find our virtual machine that we created and opened up on the public internet, and a ton of people are gonna start trying to log into it. And then all those logs are kind of going to be logged inside of here, if that makes sense. And then basically what we're going to do next is we're going to be able to like forward these logs to Azure in an area where we can query them and then connect them to our SIM or SIEM, or however you like to pronounce that. And then ultimately see where all these people are like trying to attack our virtual machine from. And you can click filter current log here. And then you can filter for event ID 4625. That just means like a failure to log in. And then if you say okay, it will like remove all the logs except for the filtered one. So I think that, I don't know if these are all me, but we can see. So lab user failed to log in. Oh, that was me. Lab user, employee, that was me. Employee. So only I have tried to log into this or failed to log into it. You might actually be seeing real adversaries trying to log into your virtual machine at this point. Sometimes it takes like an hour or something for it to get noticed or discovered on the internet, but I just kind of want to show you this. So at this point, again, we didn't really do anything. We just have our virtual machine opened up on the internet, and then we're observing the logs in it. So next, we can close this. We're going to configure a log repository and then forward our virtual machine logs into there. So let's get started on that. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to create something called a log analytics workspace. This is going to be our log repository. So back in Azure, if you go to portal.azure.com and you search for log analytics workspace, click on this, and then we're going to create one, and then you can name it whatever you want, just maybe remember it or make sure it makes sense. And so resource groups, we're going to put it inside of our resource group that we created earlier. So the RG SOC Lab, and then for the name of our log analytics workspace, this is the log repository. So you can name it law for like log analytics workspace, and then I don't know, whatever, SOC Lab, some numbers, and then put it in EastUS2, and then just say review and create. And then create. And create, and this is going to create our log repository. And then while this is creating, we're going to, well, I guess we have to wait for this to finish creating. We're going to create our Sentinel instance. So Sentinel is like a security information and event management system, aka SIM or SIEM, however you like to pronounce that. So we're going to go to search up here and then search for Sentinel, and then click on this. And then go ahead and click Create Microsoft Sentinel, and we need the Log Analytics Workspace. Okay, so we got to wait for the Log Analytics Workspace to finish creating before we can link it. So we'll just kind of wait for this to finish. Okay, it finished. So click refresh if you're here already. and then choose our Log Analytics workspace and say add. And then this is going to actually link our Log Analytics workspace to our SIM or our Sentinel instance. So we can get the logs, or rather, so we can access the logs in our log repository from our SIM. But still, there's no connection between like our virtual machine and the log repository yet. So we're going to handle that next. And you notice over here, it says like Microsoft Sentinel offers a 31-day free trial. Like, of course, like after the trial ends, like you're going to get charged for Sentinel, and the amount that you're charged depends on like how many logs you process with it. So just be, I guess, wary of that, and don't leave your virtual machines on forever. Again, this is like kind of another good reason to use the CyberRange, because all this stuff is like we pay the subscription, handle all that optimization and worrying about that on the back end. You'll just pay like your monthly CyberRange subscription, and then you can pretty much like use the lab and do almost like whatever you want. So this finished. So Microsoft Sentinel trial activated. So now we have our instance of Sentinel set up. So now it looks like this. We have our log repository connected to Sentinel. So the next thing we have to do within Sentinel is we got to configure the Azure Monitoring Agent security event connector. This just basically means it creates like a connection between our virtual machines and the Log Analytics workspace, so we can receive the logs in Sentinel and kind of observe them and do stuff with them. It's just basically making a connection between the virtual machines, Log Analytics workspace, and Sentinel. So to do that, go to Content Management, and then go to Content Hub. This is in Sentinel, by the way. So if you're like way out, you're like at portal.azure.com, like the main screen. If you go to Sentinel, you can see like our Sentinel instance that's connected to our Log Analytics. So click on this, and then you can go to Content Management and Content Hub. I'm gonna like collapse this. Then you can search for a security event, I believe. We'll see. So under Windows Security Events, if you click this, you'll see like a bunch of stuff over here that talks about it. So click install for this. It will install the Windows Security Event connector, and then we have to configure it afterwards. So we'll just kind of wait for this to finish. So that installed. So now under Content Hub, if we click on like Windows Security Event, we can now click Manage. And then while we're doing this, before we do this, go ahead and open up another tab. I just want to show you something. Click on your virtual machine here, and then go to, I think, Settings. Yes, and then go to Extensions, and then you'll notice something, like just leave it the screen here for now, and then go back to the Windows Security Events and then inside Sentinel. And then we want to install this like Windows Security Events via Azure Monitoring Agent. So click on this, or check this rather. And then this page will open up here on the right, and it will show like how much stuff has been ingested, and it's 0 because we don't have a connection yet. So click on Open Connector page. And then from here, we're going to create what's called a data collection rule. So this is like another, it's like another object that gets created in Azure inside of our resource group. But this rule basically is used by the virtual machine to forward logs into our Log Analytics workspace, which lets us access them inside of our SIM. So click Create Data Collection Rule. We can name this anything like DCR, Windows, something. Make sure the subscription we only have one. In the resource group, we're going to put it in here. So say next for resources. And then expand this, and then just select our virtual machine and say next. And then just leave this. Technically, we could probably collect common security events, but just collect all of them for now. And then say next, and then say create. And then while this is creating, I believe we can go back to the other tab here, like inside of our virtual machine, and it should start installing the Azure Monitoring Agent extension. Like if we say refresh, eventually, like it should show up in here eventually. So we'll just like let this get created. And then if we go back here, you can see this thing said like successfully installed extension, but actually it just started installing it. So you'll see like the Azure Monitoring Agent here inside of our virtual machine, and then the status, this will go to like transitioning, and then it will go to like installed or something like this. Yeah, so once this is like fully installed, we can kind of assume that the logs are being forwarded, but we'll just like verify those when that happens. So we'll just wait for this to like kind of finish getting installed. So we finished with this section. So let's go, actually I'm gonna open up another tab. So I'll just open another tab, go to portal.azure.com. And then we can go to Log Analytics Workspace. So open up this. And this is our Log Analytics Workspace. Our virtual machine should be sending logs into here very shortly. And then this is also connected to Sentinel, so it can forward the logs, or rather the logs can be accessed by Sentinel, but we're gonna look inside of here to like make sure the logs are coming in. So click on logs, we can close this, and then to see like the Windows logs, we can type security event and just say run, and we'll see if like anything comes out. Nothing might not come out yet because we just configured logging, so we'll just wait a bit. This is like our virtual machine, and we can see like the status of the Azure Monitoring Agent. Basically, the Azure Monitoring Agent is what will forward the logs to our Log Analytics Workspace, and then we can act upon those within Sentinel. So the agent got installed, so we might have to like take a break for like 20 minutes or something, for however long it takes for the logs to start showing up in here. But as long as this shows provisioning succeeded, it should be good. So I'll just like take a break and come back in like 30 minutes or something, and then at the point where you type security event and then run this and then something comes out here, we can kind of continue the lab then. So we'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, we're back. It's been about 30 or 40 minutes or so, and now we can search security event, and we see like a bunch of logs come out. You can see like there's 1,434 logs. You might not have these yet. You might have to wait a bit longer, but if you can ping your virtual machine from your computer, it's definitely open, and it's definitely going to be found on the public internet. So basically, I'll just kind of give you a crash course in this is called KQL before we go on to the next section. But basically, this security event thing, this is called a table in database land. It's called a table, but an easy way to think about this is just like a giant spreadsheet, because that's essentially what it is, right? It's essentially a giant spreadsheet with different columns like time, account, and like all this other stuff. You can just kind of like inspect a giant spreadsheet. And it basically holds a bunch of information and like a lot of logs. So these logs that are coming in all exist on the virtual machine, and it's just forwarding the virtual machine using this Azure Monitoring Agent is forwarding all of the logs into this central log repository called Log Analytics Workspace. And when we enter like just the name of the table, it will dump the entire thing out down here. Obviously it can't dump it all if it's too big, but it will basically dump everything. And we don't always want to see every possible thing. So we use what's called KQL, or Kusto Query Language, to filter out certain things that we want to see. So for example, and by the way, like KQL, SQL, SPL, those are all like the same thing. They're just different query languages to narrow down what we see. So for example, if we want to see only records that have, where the account is this, we can say security event, enter, pipe, where account equals like this. And this is a special character, so we got to use 2. And if we can say shift enter, or we can say run, and then it will show only the records that have that account in them. And then likewise, we can like expand this and see kind of a vertical version of it. You notice there's like a lot of properties in here that either I don't know what they are, I simply like don't care what they are. And we can kind of filter down how much we see by using project. So for example, we can say project, and if we only want to see like the time generated, the account name, the computer, maybe event ID, activity, and IP address, we can use project, and then we can only see like those certain things, and then we can kind of ignore the rest of the stuff. So if we run this query, you'll notice it only shows us where the account is equal. Oh, this is like a bad word. I just like freaking realized that. Oh my God, I just realized that. Well, whatever. I was gonna like read this out where the account name is equal to, I was just gonna say that. But anyway, you'll notice that it's only showing accounts, records where the account name is this, and it's only projecting certain fields. And this is actually like someone on the public internet is trying to log into our virtual machine with this account name. And this is actually someone on the internet. So for example, if we copy this public or this IP address and we go to like, I don't know, IP lookup something, I don't know, geo lookup, we can see like where this person is from. So if we click on this, it looks like this IP address is from the Netherlands. So it looks like somebody from the Netherlands is like trying to like log into our virtual machine. So if we remove this filter, we can see all of the events, but it's only projecting like the time, the account, and like just this stuff, right? So if we want to see only the failed logons, we can say like where event ID is equal to 4625, because 4625 is like the logon failure event ID, if that makes sense. So we can see already, there's already like, really? Wow. We can see already there's already 6,000 failed logon events against our virtual machine. That's crazy. I didn't think there would be that many so fast. And what are the odds that the first one I pick has like a bad name in it? But anyway, I hope this makes sense. It's just like a way to filter down what we want to see. So I'll end this really quickly, but I just want to show you again. If we search only this, I disconnected this stuff, it will show like everything, like all the records. And if we want to like narrow it down where it shows only this event ID and then only these columns, it will like look something like this. And we can even filter it down further. We can say like in the last like 5 minutes. So for example, I'll say 10 minutes. We can say like where, for example, time generated is greater than ago 5 minutes, something like this. And this will show only things that happened in the last 5 minutes. So if we run this, it should have like less records. Really, this many happened. Man, there's a lot of people trying to log into our virtual machine. That's remarkable. In the last 5 minutes, there's 4,000 attempts. Let me say like last 1 minute, okay? 400. I feel like this can't be right, but it is. That's freaking bonkers. Okay. So basically, as a recap of what we did, we have like our virtual machine and all that stuff set up. We set up our log analytics workspace. which is the log repository, and we have the log repository or the log analytics workspace connected to Sentinel. And if you want to learn how to use KQL, obviously, like I teach you how to do that in the cyber range, but there's a free resource called kc7cyber.com. I haven't used it, but somebody in the cyber community showed it to us, and apparently it's like really good for learning KQL. So you can check that out. But I will say, in the cyber range, remember it's like a normal work environment. It has like 500 users in there, and hundreds of virtual machines, and like there's just a lot of activity. So the cyber range is like a good place to practice using KQL because there's actual like real logs in there that you can use. But yeah, that's KQL. And you remember, we're actually going to use these logs inside of Sentinel to plot this map of where all the different attackers are coming from. But in order to do that, we need to have some kind of like geographic data, essentially, if that makes sense. And you'll notice that when we run this like query, we look at these logs, and there's not actually any geographic data in here. There's only like an IP address. It doesn't say like it's coming from like Netherlands or wherever. Like inside of here, there's like no way for us to know, right? So in order for us to do this, we're going to import this spreadsheet that we're going to use to resolve IP addresses to actual physical locations on a map. So we're going to get into that next. So we're basically going to upload this. It's just like another giant spreadsheet, but it shows like a mapping of different IP address ranges and like where they are in the world in terms of like latitude, longitude, city, and country. So for example, if we just take one of these random attackers, we can find, this is like a random attacker, right? And this is their IP address. So if we take one of these, and this is all going to happen automatically, but I'm just kind of showing you how we're going to derive the location information. And basically, this is our IP address. So, oh, it's actually like too big to search. Let me open this on my local computer. So basically how this works is this is like the mapping, right? And then this is like the random attacker's IP address. And basically, how this works is this IP address, this 185.156.73.169, it falls into this like group, essentially. It falls into this group. And then the ISP or whatever who owns this group of IP addresses is inside Poland. So basically how this works is Sentinel, our SIM, is going to make use of this big spreadsheet. And for each IP address, it's basically going to look on the sheet and be like, okay, where does this IP address land? Oh, this is a Polish one. These are the coordinates, and then it will basically map it on a map. So that's how this works. But we just need to like upload this summarized list of IP addresses into Azure, into our Sentinel, which is our SIM, so it can make use of it to do that. So we're going to do that next. And I will say this is something that usually will happen like on the back end automatically, but anyway, we're going to do it manually here, and don't ask me where I got that mapping of all the location stuff, because, well, I might tell you in person, but I won't tell you here. But anyways, we're going to create the watch list in Sentinel and then start creating our map. So first, I might download the actual spreadsheet that we're going to make our watch list from. I'll put a link to this in the description. Just simply download it onto your desktop or something, like so. Just download it. I'm not going to do it again because I did already. But we're going to go to Sentinel. So go ahead and go to a new tab if you want, portal.azure.com, like so. And then you can search Sentinel like this. And then click on our Sentinel instance. And then we're going to, I believe it's in configuration, and then go to watch list. And then we're going to create a new watch list. And then don't mess this up. If you do, it's going to be a problem later. So just for the name, just put GeoIP like this. For the alias, put GeoIP like this, and then say next for source. And then for source, we'll just say browse for files. And get the GeoIP summarized file that you downloaded earlier. And then you'll see it. It looks like this. And then for the search key, choose network, like so, and then say review and create. And then it should dump you back at this like watch list page, and you can refresh this and you can see a geo IP watch list here. And if you click it, it should show like how many items there are, and it should show that it's like uploading here. So this will take like some time to upload. And the watch list items, it should have like a maximum, I think, let me look actually. Can I see in here how many there are? It should be like, oh, I cannot see. It should be like 50,000 records or something like this. It's like a pretty decent number of records. It's like 50K or something like this. So just leave this, let this upload finish, and then come back when this is 100%. And then the watch list items, this will be, I think it will be like 50 something thousand. So I'll pause it again and we'll resume in a few minutes. Okay, it looks like this thing finished uploading. You can see watch list items is 55, and then you can see like status preview. Well, whatever, status is succeeded. And what this means basically is it created another table inside Log Analytics. I'll kind of show you what that looks like here. So I'll clear this out. So you remember like our security event table? If we query this, it's just like a giant spreadsheet, right, of our logs that are coming from our virtual machine. And you can kind of see them here. And then if we type this like get watch list like this with the name of the watch list we created, which is here, in quotes, it will kind of show us the actual watch list. So, and basically this watch list, oh my God, this watch list, this thing that we uploaded got put into Azure, if that makes sense. You can see like the network. So basically you can see everything here, like the network column, which is here, latitude and longitude, which is here, latitude, longitude, city name, which is here, and then country name, which is here. And then these stuff is like, were automatically created by Azure on the back end, like the time that it was synced, I guess. And then the search key, which is something it kind of made on the back end. And then I don't actually know what this is, just like a unique identifier, this item ID. So basically now we have this watch list that we can use to look up IP addresses, so we can like kind of see where the different login failures are coming from. So basically I'll explain what this query does. It's just a big, it's a big KQL query, but security event. Let me get a single IP address of some random attacker. So I'm just going to look in the security event table where event ID equals 4625. I just memorized that on accident because I've seen it so many times, but this is like all the different events in our virtual machine logs where somebody failed to log in. And I'm just going to get a random IP address from like one of the attackers who's failing to log in. So I'm just going to grab, this is like, these are all attackers trying to log into our virtual machine. So I'll just get one of their IP addresses like so. And then this is the previous query. So I'll paste it in here, and then I'll kind of explain like what this does. So I'll just run this query. And now you can see this is like basically the same thing as before when we looked at our Windows events. Remember, we see all the people failing to log in with like admin or whatever. But now our watch list gives us access to locational data. So if we scroll all the way to the right, now we can see like where the attacker is coming from. Like we see their city name, the country name, the latitude, longitude, the network block that their IP address is a part of, and then a bunch of other stuff that we don't care about. So we can project the fields that we care about. So for example, probably time generated, computer, IP address, and then city, for example, city name, country name, latitude, longitude, and then we can project these. And now we can see it's basically like, this is our computer, this is the And we can rename IP address too. This might be confusing. Like, is it the computer's IP address or the attacker's IP address? So we can say something like this. So we can do this, attacker IP. This is like renaming one of the fields to attacker IP address. So it's like easier for us to understand. So we can rerun this query. And then now we see like time generated computer, and this is the attacker. This is where the attacker is from, their city, their country, the latitude and longitude, like on a map where they're from. And then we just projected these only. So this is, it's just like an example of showing you how we can like enrich the logs from our virtual machine. So now the last thing we kind of have to do is create our map in Sentinel that will basically map all of this out and visualize for us, so we can see exactly where all these attackers are coming from and be able to like kind of see them on a map, if that makes sense. Oops, I made a mistake. So to do that, we're just going to go to Sentinel and we're going to create a workbook. So switch to your tabs. If you got lost, you can just go to portal.azure.com and search for Sentinel like this. And then we'll go to our Sentinel instance and then go to workbooks. That's what we're going to create the map inside of. And then we're going to add a workbook and we'll say edit, and then just simply remove these elements that the workbook was pre-populated with. So remove these. And then from our lab checklist, click on this link. This is for like the workbook. So click on this link and open it. It's just going to open some JSON. So we simply just copy this, then go back to our Sentinel. Then we're going to add a query, and then click Advanced Editor and just erase everything in here and paste this. We'll say done editing, and then it will basically just create the map for us, but I'll like kind of show you how this was done. So just say like, say save this for now, and then just name it like, Windows VM attack map, and then put it in our resource group, and just, you can say save this, and then say save. And then we can close all this, and then we can say edit again, and then click this edit down. It's like say edit up here, which I clicked already, and then click edit down here. And then you can say map settings, and then you can see like a bunch of settings for the map. And then basically you can see like how everything is done. I'm not gonna like completely dissect this query or anything, but basically, we're counting up the number of different failures, like login failures, where the IP address, latitude, longitude, city name, and country name are the same. So this just basically means we're counting up, like we can assume this is like a single person, right? If their IP address, latitude, longitude, and everything is the same, we can just assume this is like a single entity, and we're counting those up and then plotting them on the map, like so. So there was like 26,000 failed logins from Poland, 13.3K from Belgium, 13.3K from South America, and then this is from me. It says China, but this I'm actually in Thailand. This attack map data is like it's out of date. I just created something to use for this lab. That is like the watch list we made. It's not like completely up to date. It's possible this ISP is considered like Chinese for some reason as well, but like who knows. But anyway, your map is definitely going to look different than this. And then you can also like adjust stuff over here, like if you want to. You can change like the color palette. Right now it's like green to red, but you can change it like if you want to, and just say like apply, and you'll see that it gets like updated. Based on what you select, and you can say apply. And then you can change like the metrics or like the labels and stuff down here. So like the friendly location, friendly location is just a field like I defined here. Friendly location, I just combined like the city name and the country name to make a quote unquote friendly location, and that's what you see here. But you can change the label to like city technically if you want. Say apply, and it will just like tell you the city name. But if there's no city, it will just show up as 0. So you could say like country as well, apply, and then it just shows the country. But I made like a friendly location which has like a combination of both. So we can say save and close, and we can save this. And then this is the attack map. So this will change over time. Like the longer you leave your virtual machine on, the more like it's going to get attacked essentially from just like random countries and places all over the world. So I guess a good activity would be to leave this on for like 24 hours and then kind of see what it looks like the next day. But yeah, just as a recap, this is what we did. Basically, we have our Azure tenant, we have our subscription, we have our resource group with everything inside of it, we have a virtual network, we have a subnet, and then connected to the subnet, we have a virtual machine. The virtual machine's network security group or cloud firewall is completely opened up to the public internet. The firewall inside of the virtual machine is completely opened up to the public internet. We have a log analytics workspace that operates as our central log repository. We configured the virtual machine with the Azure monitoring agent to forward all of the security logs into the log analytics workspace. And then we created a Sentinel instance that we connected to our log analytics workspace. And then inside Sentinel, we uploaded a watch list, which is basically just a large spreadsheet with geographic information on it with IP blocks. We uploaded that watch list. And we use the watch list in conjunction with a normal KQL query to look up all the failed logons that were happening on our virtual machine. And we use the watch list, the IP blocks, and then the attacker's IP address from the logs to figure out where the attackers were coming from, like around the world. And then we're ultimately able to plot them on a map, which is what we're looking at here. And I did somewhat clickbait, like a little bit, because it's not actually like a complete SOC setup yet. It's like almost there because we have a SIM set up and we're sending logs to it, and we have like a nice, at least one dashboard, like a visualization of where attack traffic is coming from, but we didn't actually set up any kind of incident response process or anything like that. You can actually set up alerts, like analytic rules in Sentinel, and you can trigger on alerts and automatically create incidents and like work the incident to completion, like all this other stuff. And you can do that on your own. If you're interested in more similar labs to this, definitely check out the Cyber Range. We have like a bunch of labs similar to this. Not to mention we have like a fully licensed Tenable as well, and like a whole like complete vulnerability management course, as well as like a threat hunting course. And we just have like a lot of stuff in there beyond what we did in this lab. A lot of like walkthroughs and demos of how to do certain things. Not to mention there's like the whole internship, and the environment is shared by like everybody else too. And there's currently 500 or so members. There's a max capacity of 960 members in the Cyber Range, so it's like already more than half full. But yeah, definitely check it out. Let me know if you have trouble or you get stuck with anything in the comments. And yeah, we'll see you in the next video. Hope you enjoyed this lab.